Welcome to the Accelerator Challenge on the new European Bauhaus and Architecture, Engineering and Construction, Digitalisation for Decarbonisation topic of the European Innovation Council. My name is Annemarie Sass. I'm the head of unit of the Program Manager's Office in the European Innovation Council. And today I'm here with Frank Mouwen, the Program Manager for Architecture, Engineering and Construction, who will explain you more background on this challenge. I want to tell you that this session is recorded, and this is also your opportunity to ask questions to Frank. So whenever you have questions, please put your questions in the Slido. It is at sly.do, and you have to use the event code challenges. If you want to remain anonymous, then please submit also your questions as anonymous in the Slido. So we're removing the echo. Yeah. So I will start with a short introduction about the European Innovation Council and what proactive management means by the program managers. And then Frank will explain the challenge that we discuss now, which is the new European Bauhaus and Architecture, Engineering and Construction, digitalisation for decarbonisation. This is an accelerator topic. And this afternoon, or rightly after this, we will have a similar topic around architecture, engineering and construction, which will be the Pathfinder topic. We are also happy to have two experiences of EIC beneficiaries who have obtained funding from the EIC, and they are from the area of architecture, engineering and construction. After that, we will answer all the questions that you've put in the Slido. And for that, we also have our colleague Romina Mehmeti with us, and she's a project officer from the Accelerator unit. Then we expect to finish around 10:40 with some closing remarks. So I will start with the introduction to the European Innovation Council. So the EIC, it is part of Horizon Europe. And you know that Horizon Europe is a very large research and innovation program. The total value of Horizon Europe is around 95 billion euro budget. And about 10% of that is dedicated to the European Innovation Council. European Innovation Council is located in Pillar 3, Innovative Europe. And this word innovative is very important. The objective of the European Innovation Council is to bring the good research that European researchers are doing as quickly as possible to the market in the form of new innovations, new innovative services and products that the European society needs. So the other two pillars in Horizon Europe, the first one, Pillar 1, excellent science. There you see, for instance, the European Research Council. They also do excellent research, also in the area of engineering, architecture, engineering and construction. But they don't have this view on the market and on bringing the results to the market as soon as possible. And then the second pillar is Pillar 2, where we have the collaborative research addressing global challenges and European industrial competitiveness. Also there in cluster 4, particularly digital industry and space, there is also research into the construction area, for instance, and also in engineering. So if we go to the next slide. So the European Innovation Council, we have to bring the research to the market as soon as possible. And in order to do that, we have 3 different instruments. The first one is a Pathfinder instrument. It is dedicated to early stage research. So technology readiness levels from 1 to 3. And it is to develop proof of concepts of groundbreaking research ideas. We will provide you with a grant if you are evaluated successfully in this scheme. So with Pathfinder, you maybe bring up the research to a TRL level of or 3 or 4, and or sometimes even higher. It can also be that you already go immediately to TRL level 5 or 6. But suppose you developed a good proof of concept, but you still need a bit more maturation of the concept. You need more time to think about the correct business models. In that case, you can apply to a transition grant. So that's the second black box that you see here on the slide. There you would move up the research from TRL level 4 to TRL level 6. Here you would also get a grant around 2.5 million euro. And it really is this middle step to overcome quite often this valley of death, which is there with research. And your objective would be to be ready to go to the market after this grant. And then the third instrument that we have, it is the Accelerator instrument, and that's for higher TRLs, 6 to 9, and that is to scale up the innovations. So after transition, you have maybe some customers, a small market, but you need to scale up to become a successful startup or scale up. And with that, usually you need a larger amount of funding than you can get through the grant. And therefore the accelerator is blended finance. You can have part of the finance as a grant, but also you can get up to 15 million euro of equity investment. So this makes your financial ticket much larger and you can really make a step forward. So today we will discuss then the accelerator topic. Can we go to the next slide? Yes, so this slide, it shows a bit the same as what I just showed. So we see the 3 instruments, Pathfinder, Transition, Accelerator. We see that they, each of them has a higher technology readiness level, but they also, all 3, during every step in these instruments, also the business readiness level goes up. And if you think about it, it really goes from the question in Pathfinder related to the research, what can I develop? What can this technology do for me? Whereas when you are at the end of the accelerator and you are at the business side, you can also answer the question, why would my customers want to buy my product? What can they do with it? So this why, we move from what to why, and this is really what the EIC brings as instruments to support all entrepreneurs in their journey from early research to market readiness, products and services. We do not only provide financial support, but also accompanying services, which we call proactive management. So part of these proactive management are the business acceleration services, which are available for all beneficiaries. And through these business acceleration services, beneficiaries can get access to entrepreneurs, to investors. We organize many pitching events, for instance, to relevant investors for your projects. Also access to mentors. If you have specific questions which you like to be addressed, there could be a coach or a mentor available for you. Access to ecosystems. For instance, in this context, we are developing corporate days where corporates in your area they partner with us, and they then ask us what are the companies in my domain which are relevant for me. Can we organize a day where then the companies pitch to this corporate, and that hopefully after that there will be a relationship between you, and you can, become part of the ecosystem of this corporate. So we have many of these services, and we will also hear some examples today later by Frank and also by our two guest speakers that we have. Then the other part of the support that we provide are the program managers. So the program managers is something new to the EIC, and you also don't have that in the other part of Horizon Europe. And we have 10 program managers at your disposition. And the program managers are hired for 4 years by the European Commission. They are very experienced persons who have a track record in doing this groundbreaking research, but also bringing it to the market. So they have a complete view on how to move research from low TRL levels to high TRL levels, and to make a success out of that. They each have their domain, and so as I said, we have 10 program managers, and on the right-hand side of the slide you can see the domains that they have. And today then you will meet Frank Mouwen, who is the program manager for architecture, engineering and construction. The program managers do two things. First of all, they develop a vision on where Europe has a lot of potential, but is not investing enough yet. And this translates to challenges in the work program. And then the second thing that they do, once the projects are selected according to one challenge, then they do proactive portfolio management, and they work together with all of these projects to make the impact of the research as impactful as possible. So on this slide, you see an overview of the whole work program 2023 of the European Innovation Council. The total value is 1.6 billion euro. And you can see the 3 instruments: Pathfinder, Transition, and Accelerator. And each of these 3 instruments, they have an open part where you can submit bottom-up proposals on any topic, as long as it's related to health, digital, or green transition. But it can be, your idea, what you need. And then about half of the budget is dedicated to challenges. And the challenges is then top-down according to the visions of the program managers. And if we move to the right-hand side of the slide, then you can see all the challenges that we have in the work program. So we have Pathfinder challenges, Transition challenges, and Accelerator challenges. And now, this session, it will be about digitalized construction Accelerator topic. Later today at 11 o'clock, we will start with the Pathfinder session on digitalized construction. And we are also organizing information days for all the other challenges that you see on this slide with the other program managers that we have. So the next slide. This is my last slide. It's just an overview of the cutoff dates, of the deadlines that you would need to respect to submit a proposal. You see there are many different deadlines, so it depends on the instrument. Here we are in Accelerator. in Accelerator, it's very flexible. You can submit your proposal when you want. We put them all together, and then we have a cutoff date where we take all the proposals that have been submitted before that date. And the next one for the challenge is 22nd of March. Then you have another opportunity until 7th of June. And the last one will be on the 4th of October. So with this, I want to hand over to Frank to give you the content of the challenge.
Yeah. So how do I see myself?
So start video. We have to start video and I stop video.
Yeah.
Because you have present. Can you read?
Important to say really is two more things. That is the EIC work program. It's the document you have maybe already seen, but that's really the reference and the basis of everything we do. Today I will talk about the challenge, but I won't talk about how to apply. That has been discussed on the 13th of December. There's a recording of that. Here's the QR code to get to that recording. So now we'll talk about the Accelerator challenge. The goal is really to give a little bit more flavor to the document of the work program. The work program is all text. It's a legal document, no pictures. So today you will get the pictures. I will also try to explain a little bit more about the spirit and how this challenge came to be. Now, you already saw that both challenges of Accelerator and Pathfinder are about a deep digitalization of the architecture, engineering, and construction value chain. So for the people that join later on the Pathfinder, I think also this part of the presentation about how it came to be is relevant for you. Again, I cannot stress enough. There's a legal basis for what we do. It's the work program. The QR code will guide you to the download page of that program. If there's any doubt or anything I say that is conflicting with what I said in the work program is white, but we can also reflect on that in the Q&A session. Maybe a little bit more in building up on what Anne-Marie already said. You know, the EIC tries to bridge this gap between science and wider market adoption by the entrepreneurial journey. So the EIC is really in the early phases of that journey. So what we hope to achieve is really that companies, especially in the Accelerator, are building up to a stage that after us, the venture capital industry will also be able to take it over from there and really grow the companies at a very large scale. So we are really in the early stage, TRL 6, 7, and 9, as we're talking. If you talk about TRLs, always ask yourself, technology readiness level, yeah, ready for what? So keep that in mind. This is a slide I borrowed from one of our industrial partners from Spain, Acciona. It basically reflects very well on the venture capital activity in our sector, architecture, engineering, construction. What you can see is really the second largest sector in Europe, maybe after financial services. I think traditionally it didn't get the proportional attention and investment money and research money proportion to the size of the industry. What you can see is actually quite a smallish amount of VCs going into the sector. But the good news is it's increasing. And if you include last year, it was still increasing where other sectors were actually decreasing. So we try to capture that momentum also with our program. This is another snapshot from another partner, Cemex Ventures, where you see where the money is actually invested in. And I particularly point to these 4 elements in the top. So enhanced productivity, the future of construction, green construction, and the construction supply chain. What I would like to bring home also in explaining the challenge is that we are actually with the EIC challenges going one level deeper than this. So with this deep digitalisation of the value chain of architecture, engineering, construction, we are actually capturing all those 4 elements. So, ready for a clean sweep of all the money. Yeah, this is a picture of, you probably recognize New York City, looking to Upper Manhattan. The point I show this picture is, I believe it was Breakthrough Energy Venture, the investment arm of Bill Gates, who's also investing quite heavily in construction sector, who said that we have to build 1 New York City per month for the next 40 years in order to keep up with the space demand in the world. So, of course, the large share is also going to be in the developing world, but it's our conviction that if we do this in the same way we have been doing it over the last 100 years, it's probably going to lead to a couple of problems. One of the issues is that the construction sector is not the prime example of circularity. So the sector causes a lot of waste. So building waste represents 35% of the total waste of the EU area. Now, concrete and cement is a great material. I mean, it's like fluid rock. You can do many things. It has served us very well. This is a cement kiln. The problem is not concrete as per se. The problem is this smokestack. So in this smokestack, there's a lot of CO2. The CO2 emissions of the building sector represents anything between 8-10% if you focus on the material side. Maybe a nice side step is someone told me that those cement factories are located very close to the limestone quarries, because if you convert limestone into cement, you lose about half the weight of the limestone in the process as CO2. So it makes economical sense to avoid the transport cost of half you're losing anyways. So summarizing, the EU really committed to a net zero by 2050. This is really a strict commitment. So it's not only electrical cars and solar panels, it's also the construction sector that has to go to net zero by 2050. It's still 10% at the moment. We make actually good progress with operational greenhouse gases. So heating, ventilation, air conditioning, insulation, double glazing. But in the same time, the embodied greenhouse emissions are not decreasing as we wish. Another big topic in the construction sector, this is a graph from a McKinsey report showing on the horizontal axis a change in labor productivity, and on the vertical axis, the absolute productivity. You can study it maybe later, but the takeaway from this is that productivity in many cases is stagnating or even decreasing. Now, why this is a problem is that we have to make many transitions, also the energy transitions, all kinds of other transitions, and we have an aging population in Europe. So also the construction sector will have to compete for skilled labor if we move forward and deliver to those transitions. This is maybe a nice graph to show the difference between embodied carbon and operational carbon. Operational carbon in blue, embodied in red. You see that we make good progress with operational carbon, so the energy consumption and emissions from using the building over the 50, 60, 70 years of operation. But the embodied carbon is relatively going up and also in absolute value. And this is really the topic of the challenge, both of Accelerator and of Pathfinder. But going back to the root cause of all that CO2 emissions, it's not only cement, but it is for a large part cement. So the reason for this is that the calcination of limestone is done at a very high temperature. And that fundamentally leads to a CO2 emission, not only from the chemical reaction of the calcination of limestone, but also the high temperature of 1500 degrees where a lot of fossil fuels are being burned. So you can do a couple of things now. So you can use alternatives to cement. You can use less material, less cement. You can bury the CO2, just ask the oil and gas industry how to do it. And we can upgrade to electrical kilns and we can reuse materials. So the focus really of this challenge is on using alternatives and using less materials. Now, Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission, came to help. She said that we know that the construction sector can be turned from a carbon source into a sink by using organic building materials or other materials like wood and smart materials, and technologies like AI are applied. So this is already a good pointer into where the challenge is going. This slide is about paradigm. This is really the foundational slide of designing the challenges, both for Accelerator and Pathfinder. On the left-hand side, well, it was actually an entrepreneur I talked to who was always developing algorithmic design tools, who said that nature uses very few materials in endless complex ways, but we humans use many materials in simplistic, wasteful ways. And actually, he added to that quote that he said, the ultimate embodiment of my algorithms may approach the complexity of nature. But what you see on the left-hand side, it's more than fascinating. If you look at the butterfly wing and you zoom in at different scales of zoomification, you see different structures. Nature uses different architectures at different scale levels, and very fascinating at the smaller scale, so the nano scale, the chip scale, the ASML scale, you see gyroid structures which interact with the wavelength of light to give the wing of the butterfly a color. And if we contrast that with the right-hand side of how we build our buildings with temporary formworks and reinforced steel and pouring concrete, I think the challenge is really about more of the left and less of the right. In Accelerator, moving towards the paradigm, and in Pathfinder, really trying to capture the state of designs and really going very deep into this paradigm. But the key to this is really a computational design, a digitalized fabrication, in order to use less or enable alternative materials. That's the spirit, that's the essence of the challenge. Now, we have a long history in Europe, and I think we should build on that. It's unique. But on the left-hand side is still the largest unreinforced concrete structure in Italy, in Rome. Then we had a long period of stereotomy, where local materials were used in a very sophisticated way. Then the last 100 years, we had a good period of cheap fossil fuels and cheap concrete, and we did ourselves well with that. I think the logical next step is to build on that. So to use computational design, digital fabrication, and greenhouse gas neutral materials in order to move on forward and onward with a climate neutral construction sector. So stereotomy is the art of making efficient use of local materials, where the designer and the stonemason would work very closely together as a consortium. If the EIC would be there a couple of 100 years ago, it would certainly apply. But if you scale down this picture to a tabletop model, it will be as thin as Excel. So what I know is that there's research going on across Europe to really bring this idea, this collaboration between the engineer and the fabricator and the local materials into the new era. There are a couple of important pillars where Europe in legislation is helping us. It's the European Green Deal, which is defining what we want to achieve, on a carbon basis, saying net zero by 2050, and a couple of milestones in between. But just to remind you, this slide that Anne-Marie showed you earlier with the TLs and the business readiness, and those two questions, right? What and why? I think the European Green Deal is really about what can we do. But if you are an entrepreneur, especially an accelerator, you get closer and closer to your customer. You are obsessed with the problem of your customer. You really need to get into under his skin and understand why he's buying your product. There's this the program of the new European Bauhaus. This is where it comes in. This is why it is also in the title of the challenge. So, New European Bauhaus stands for a vision of the future. It stands for what we would like to build, what we desire to live in and build in the future. And it's around the three visions of sustainability, beautifulness, and togetherness. Now, just a picture. This is a timber building. Most people that see this react like, this is beautiful. I'd like to be there. So maybe a token of inspiration that, accelerator startups that could, this is clearly originating in a deep digitalization design process. But of course, you get a lot of response that, this is too expensive to build. But if there would be an accelerator startup or growing a company that makes this more affordable, then this would touch both the Green Deal as well as the spirit of the new European Bauhaus. This is actually Modfion is a Swedish company we support in the Accelerator project. I would like to just give this as an example of digitalized design, a really advanced way of fabrication, and also using alternative materials, in this case laminated veneer lumber, so engineered timber, to make timber wind turbine towers. And these wind turbine towers replace the steel towers in order to reduce the carbon embedded carbon of that sector. But maybe it's also a hint that sometimes your startup may find a early niche which is maybe not directly associated with the architecture, engineering, construction field. So we can learn a lot and maybe enter the market earlier in other market segments as well. This is a picture from their fabrication process where they make these cuts to make the curved timber elements, which is a completely digitized fabrication. So this is text from the work program. The next 3 slides are showing that. You can read also the work program and download it. But it's about the 3 elements of background and scope, specific, objective, and expected outcomes. So background and scope I reflected on in the previous slides. It's really about we have to achieve net zero by 2050. It's currently 10%. Buildings show an improved operational emissions still. And apart from emissions, we also, the sector calls 35% of the waste. And really these embodied emissions originate in the current practices of design, fabrications, and the choice of the materials we made. And we want to transition away from that. So again, digitalize AEC, architecture, engineering, construction value chain, is really a fundamental transformation we try to achieve. That's why it's so great or so important that both the Accelerator and the Pathfinder have embraced this topic. Now, the new European Bauhaus offers really a human-centered pull framework in addition to the technology push. So specific objectives is really to support pioneering deep tech ventures. So ventures, you are a startup, you've already quit your job and you're starting your company and you're building it. And these companies are building a digitalized, climate neutral architecture, engineering, construction value chain of the future, focusing on computational design, digitalized fabrication, and alternative materials, or any of the combinations of. And really the spirit is to digitally enable design and fabrication technologies to use less material, so maybe assuming that we still use a lot of concrete, or enable alternative materials to reduce or eliminate the embedded emissions. So the expected outcomes are to attract a range of pioneering disruptive businesses and ventures in the range of design, fabrication, and materials for architecture, engineering, and construction, to focus on achieving a reduction in embedded carbon emissions. And maybe other impacts include also a higher productivity, which I mentioned also before, being from a higher product quality, a reduced consumption and waste material, and also an increased business appeal. And also we would like to achieve an alignment with the sector, with the European Green Deal and the new European Bauhaus. Now, if you feel attracted to this, what I said before, and would like to apply for the challenge, it's a stage process. So there are 4 steps. So you have an disruptive idea with scale of potential, and you need financial support. That's of course step 1. So you submit a short proposal of 5 pages, and we will help you that will be assessed, and we will help you to prepare your business plan and to draft a proposal with the AI tool and coach you. If there are questions about this process, we are happy to go into the Q&A in more depth with Romina, who's sitting next to me. The next step would be to get into a full proposal, which is quite a beefy document, which will be assessed by remote evaluators. So once you get to that step, the last step really is that you will pitch your company, your proposal, your business in front of a jury, of EIC jury members, and those members comprise of people from the industry. So these can be venture capitalists who run a venture capital company and assess on our behalf. It can also be experts, but often the program manager is also part of this jury, but doesn't have a voting right moving forward. So after you get thumbs up of this stage 4, you will get into a negotiation process. If you, for example, choose the equity component, you will have to also to get into a negotiation with the EIC to get to a term sheet and receive the money. So back to this proactive management. What can you expect from this once you enter into the EIC? Well, we really try all our best to help you succeed. We really try to help build your company. I've been in the position of building deep tech ventures myself a couple of times, so I guess I know a little bit what you're going through, and some of the faults you could make. So I try to help on that as well on a personal level. So, but we also try to connect you to relevant industry stakeholders and matchmaking. We try to connect you to investors, to other funding instruments. We try to connect you to potential customers and to trade fair. You can join us on trade fairs. We try to connect you to business support and other services to really gear you up into becoming a better entrepreneur, better leader, into leading your company to success. But I think unique is also that the EIC is, of course, in Brussels. In the neighbor of this of my office are people that actually build regulations, and there is an interaction, of course, with those people, and the concerns you reflect building your business, they are heard and they are reflected back to the policymakers and the regulator makers, and they will try to move that away, that barrier away. This is an example, a screenshot from an industry day, a so-called industry day. There are many of them. This is with our industrial partner Holcim, which is a large cement fabricator, and they invite accelerator companies to pitch and really to try to search for collaboration, make deals to connect them to the ecosystem. So this is really a proactive event, and maybe I invited 2 accelerator projects. We're also part of, I believe, even this Holcim event, that they can reflect on that as well, whether it was useful for them. We are currently in the works of another construction-focused corporate day. It will be too early for yourself, but there will be many more to come. This is with Velix. You know them from the rooftop windows, a very successful company, 3 billion turnover, 15% EBITDA, and now they are in a position to help new innovators innovate in the construction industry. Actually, because also we are now working on other industry days, we are working on an industry day where not only accelerator projects will be present, but also Pathfinder projects will be present. Again, reflecting also on the uniqueness of this year's challenge, that we have both the same topic in accelerator and in Pathfinder. Now, one last slide before I hand over to the accelerator examples, is that I think what is unique about our sector is the life cycle of the product, right? So this is an example from the Berlaymont, so really one of the main buildings in Brussels of the European Commission. The initial idea was late 1950s, right? And you see how it was done. No digitization was invented yet. And then there was a period of construction in the 60s, and it was refurbished in the mid-90s. But it's still a building which is used very intensely today. So just the takeaway is really the decisions we as architecture, engineering, construction sector make today, the decisions we make as architects and designers, the decisions we make as regulators today will impact the generations from now in what we are realizing now, which is different from many other sectors, like an iPhone, which is not relevant anymore in 3 years. So this is also why it's important, and why I would like to stress so much that we really have to go very deep into changing this, making this transition, because it has so much impact in the years to come. Just one last throw-out slide. before I hand over, I would like you to become a success story like this accelerator beneficiary or company that got funded a couple of years ago, which is Leiden Jar from the Netherlands. Now, it's not construction industry, but I bring it up because I personally worked for this company for a period and helped the middle guy, Christian Rood, the CEO, in structuring the company when it was still a 5-person company. They, after the EIC report, they raised, I believe it was last year, it was 20 million from private investors. And just this Christmas, they announced that they raised another commitment of 30 million euro from the EIB to actually build a factory for their very innovative silicon anode lithium-ion battery component. Again, supporting the message that we support very early stage companies and hope for those companies to grow and really make an impact together with the further investment community beyond that. So with that, my time is also exactly up, and I will hand over to the experiences, which I do together with Romina. I say Svelte here, but I'm not sure if that is actually Svelte we are doing first.
Yes, it's Svelte
Okay.
that we present
So-
first. So we could, I think, give the floor to Adela or Octavian.
Octavian will be a bit late, but I'm here and I'll be presenting Svelte and our journey with EIC. Should I share my screen now?
Yes.
All right. Full screen. All right, I hope you can see it. All good, I can begin. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us to talk about our project experience with Svelte. To represent the startup today is me, the CAO, in charge of project implementation task of the project. Our CEO and inventor, Octavian, will join us for the Q&A probably. We started our EIC Accelerator blended financing project in January 2020. We're currently running the last 4 months of our project because we had the 6 months extension. First, we'll tell you a bit about what we work on within the project, and then more about our journey with the EIC, not only in terms of the grant, but also all the experiences and support we received on top of the actual funding. About Svelte. So what does Svelte do? Svelte creates innovative machinery and solutions that facilitate the production of intricate shapes, leading to a significant reduction in concrete usage in construction, between 40 and 65%, depending on the element of the construction. Our company's digital fabrication processes enable the efficient creation of unique architectural panels with a production time reduction of up to 40 times compared to traditional methods. Our production process is streamlined, and it takes only 8 minutes to complete 1 square meter of surface compared to today's 5 hours with current solutions. So the procedure that we use is extremely simple and requires only 2 clicks to produce a complex, unique curved panel. Right. This means that our impact mostly applies to these 3 key markets. What you see is that, as we said, we reduce the production process, for example, of complex construction molds from days to hours. But most importantly, we will enable sustainable construction by reducing concrete and respectively everything that goes into it: cement, water, sand, aggregates, and obviously cut down on GHG emissions. I'll show you a bit of our projects right now that we performed during the project. You'll see here the results we had in architecture and design, where we opened a new opportunity for acoustic design. This market usually uses flat, plain elements, and we come up with a proposal for a floor-to-ceiling lamellar ceiling design with integrated lights that not only we think looks quite spectacular, but also creates ideal room acoustics. And we also, bottom right, you see that we contributed to some local urban events showcasing unique pieces of very durable urban furniture that people had a lot of fun with. Moving on, here you can see our results in the construction market. And here is where we're very excited about validating our promises of reduction in production time, labor, cost, and material usage. What you can see here is a staircase that we casted. It can be reused up to 5 casts. It's one of the most complex construction elements. It's hard to achieve. Usually it takes 4 to 5 days and many people to construct the mold. We did it in hours. But also we're very proud on the project here on the right. This is Europe's first curved beam that we produced together with an industrial partner. It's 40 meters long. It will be used for a railway construction. And not only because of its curved shape enabled by the Svelde molds, it's 20% stronger than traditional flat ones, but also it's 15% lighter. So it's using 50% less concrete. All right, so this is what we had planned in the project, but while running this project, Svelte really benefited from every kind of opportunity the EIC community and the business acceleration services brought to the table. We will name here some of the coachings, trainings, articles, awards, and so on, events that we really took advantage for free, and that really added value to our project, our team, and our company overall. It all started with choosing a business coach to guide us through pitch preparations, technical planning, commercial and growth strategies. And we ended up having a great relationship with him, and we have huge respect for our coach. His services for us were free of charge because they were covered by the EIC. And we know for sure that not only would have been very difficult for us to find such a coach on our own, but probably very difficult to afford one. In terms of other trainings that were available, there are many available, but my colleague who works on ensuring that our solution will be market ready when the technology is done has participated in 2, one on IPR and one on internalization. Moving on. One of the most impactful resources for us from the EIC came from corporate days. Frank mentioned them. There, a few selected startups get to present their solution to big organizations that are otherwise very difficult to reach out to. And what's more important about these organizations is you don't meet just anybody from those organizations. You usually meet the decision makers, and that was the case for Svelte. So we actually participated in about 5 of these corporate days, one of them being with Holcim, which is a giant precast European organization, and we met there with the decision factor, and we actually ran quite a few pilots with the local branch of Holcim in Romania, where we're based. One of them being this amazing BEAM project that we're very proud of. But not only that, we also met fellow startups during the EHE GHG co-creation project, even though the scope was a bit different for this project and we really didn't fit in the end. We did get to meet a startup that produces biomaterials that we could use to replace the foam materials that we usually use in our activity and make our activity even more sustainable. So that was absolutely fantastic opportunities from the matchmaking services provided by the EIC. All right, more on the promotion side, being part of the EIC community brought us a few opportunities to promote our solution, from interviews like the Coffee Break series that just got published a few days ago, to very impactful awards like the Innovation Radar Awards, where we won Green and Purpose Driven category. This is like top EIC contenders were participating for this prize. And this really gives us a lot of bragging rights in front of investors. And talking about investors, obviously this is one of the most important supports that you can receive as a startup. Even though we are still on the hunt, the EIC community took care that startups like us get exposed to the market and to investors. And this is a massive help when you're busy still developing your technical solution and you have very limited time and resources to reach out to the market. And as highlights of our experience is that we have been selected to represent the European Pavilion at GITEX 2022 in Dubai. This is one of the biggest technology fairs that was of direct interest for us because UAE is the market that we are looking towards for expanding. But also we are benefiting from the services of Dealflow, which is a private service provider that mediates investor relations. That again, for us, is free of cost because it's covered by the EU. And what they do for us is they take care of our listing, intensively present our solution to potential investors, and they support us to create materials that we need to provide along the way. And it's true that to benefit from all of these opportunities presented above, I had to fill in a lot of applications and participate in a lot of bridge preparations. But even this we see as an opportunity because we got to communicate our solution better and better with each trial and each feedback from multiple stakeholders in the industry. So this is it for my presentation. Overall, our experience with the EIC Accelerator has been very good, not only in terms of how much the grant helps to develop our solution, but really it has been enriched by all the opportunities within the community. And honestly, we don't know how the past 2 years flew by, and because it has been quite intense. Thank you.
Right. Now you will hang around for some questions and answers, I suspect. Yeah. Normally we would have the next one, but the next one, Odico, is actually pitching for a corporate partner or an investor. So that has preference, of course, but he will join during the Q&A later, no?
Exactly, at
Okay.
10:20,
Great.
2025. So I think we can start taking a couple of questions. So let's see, the first one we have received in the order. Let's see who starts first. I think the first one, Frank, might be for you. So which is the role of the program manager?
Yeah. So I can ask questions on technical content, but I do not have a voting right. So I do not vote. So the jury members deliberate, they prepare. They can also ask me a clarification question if they don't understand a certain element. But that is basically the role. I'm a non-voting participant of that jury.
I can take over the second one and also the third. I think they are connected to each other. So it is important for us to know at which stage in the past you have received the Seal of Excellence, because you know the evaluation process is done with short, full, and then interview step. So important to keep in mind is that you can reapply for a second time. So there is always a second chance for each step. And you need to do that normally within 1 year. So if you got a first no-go, you can reapply within 1 year and you go again either in the short proposal or full proposal or the interview step. At the second time of rejection, if you get a no-go, then there is a period of 1 year of freezing time so that you cannot reapply. So in the past it's not well defined, so but I hope I have answered this. And the second question, so 0.3 days to evaluate a short proposal. This is not actually the case because we don't evaluate proposal with days, but I mean with amount of evaluators. So maybe I can add. So for the short proposal, there will be 4 evaluators, evaluators that will check, and usually take 1 month time. So for the full proposal, there are 3 evaluators, and it takes 1 month time. So, and also this, we pay particular attention to have a good quality. So there is also a quality check on the evaluation done by the evaluator. For instance, if you get 2 goes and 1 no-go, there will be a 4-1 checking the reason of the no-go. And then at the interview step, there are 5 jury members. So yes, I think I've answered this. Next one.
I will take that one. So regarding the 3 fields, design, fabrication, materials, is there prioritization or a quota in the projects you will include in your portfolio? In Accelerator, there's no such thing as a portfolio. This is more for the Pathfinder. And in the next session about Pathfinder, I will describe in detail our considerations of building such a portfolio. For Accelerator, you apply, you are assessed according to the criteria as reflected in the work program, and that's it really. So the answer is no. Are we invited by the program managers for corporate days or pitching? It works in several directions. In the preparation of the corporate days, the program manager has an active role, both for preparation with the corporate as well as spotting which startups could be interested or interesting to attend. So we will reach out to you, but there's also a whole communication process. So you know, if you see a request for interest or request, you know, or an announcement that there will be a corporate day, you can always apply for it yourself. The work program says embrace a human-centered approach. Will this be part of the proposal? Is it an evaluation criterion? The evaluation criterions are described in the work program, which is the legal document. So it is not as such a evaluation criterion.
Maybe if I can
Yep,
add something on
absolutely.
this. So just shortly, there are 3 evaluation criteria that you can find in the work program. So excellence, impact, and the risk of implementation. So, and probably this part that you're mentioning, the human-centered approach, can be tackled in the second one, impact, and depending how you, let's say, implement this human-centered approach, maybe is it part of your, I don't know, team or organization, just how you structure it, then it can also be in the sub-criteria under the risk implementation. So have a look at the program and you will better find where to develop this. So.
Yeah, I think the next question was from the same person, so I assume that is answered as well.
Mhm.
The next question is, can we get in touch with the program manager? The answer is no, we try to avoid it, not because I'm not interested, but because we want to treat you fairly, and because there are many applicants, so there's simply not enough time for me to respond. So if you have questions or want clarifications about your proposal, about your submission, you really have to go to your national contact point. And he or she will be able to answer it, and if not, they will reach out to us for further clarification. And of course, you can also get all kinds of other support in your country.
Can a software only proposal be submitted for this challenge?
I would say yes, because we target computational design, digitalized fabrication, and materials. And I guess especially the computational design will be, you know, a software-oriented proposition. And maybe there are also other possibilities where, you know, this integration of these 3 elements are targeted. So answer is yes. For the pitching session, do SMEs have to show that other investors are willing to invest in the company. If EIC is Quinta, will you?
So I can take this one. So it's not a prerequisite that you need to show that other, but it's better to have LOI. So when you will submit full proposal, there is a section in the full proposal where you can upload LOI and interest from companies to invest. So it's always appreciated to have them. But it's not, as I said before, a prerequisite to apply.
Okay,
And
next
also
question.
the second one, investors for equity are only private investors allowed, or also public investors are allowed. So also public investors are allowed, but not as a qualified lead investor. So as you know, I mean, the EIC fund works by co-financing. So, but you need to bring a qualified lead investor that needs to come from the private sector. And then, of course, other public investor can join the round, coming rounds.
The next question is, the importance of patent-based innovation for a successful outcome in the Accelerator is significant. Yes, if our digital solution cannot be patented, any suggestions? I cannot comment in this session on particular assessment of projects. Personally, I would say our mission here is to support visionary entrepreneurs. We want you to build a company with impact. We want you to be successful, and patenting strategy is really part of your entrepreneurial talent as well to make a successful company. It's not an excluder for the Accelerator program. So I guess you also need to explore a little bit more in preparation of your application.
This question, I think I answered before. I mean, but this it's coming from an evaluator. It's my understanding. So, and I think you can address better this question to the evaluator team, who is or like drafting and signing your contract. So it's a bit out of scope for this event now.
Okay, my company is a perfect fit for this Accelerator challenge. Great, but we had a successful series in 2022. Are we still eligible to participate? So by default, I would say yes, but again, the mission is to support visionary entrepreneurs, and we try to bridge the gap between the science and the wider market adoption. And the wider market adoption also means access to finance, further finance. Now, if you are going through the whole process of Accelerator, there also will be a question, for example, in the pitching, like what happens if the EIC does not invest? So it really also depends what you would like to do with why you're asking for the money, what you would like to do with the money. And I think maybe the CEO of Svelte can reflect on this, because in the preparation of our session, he also mentioned, let's say my company was ready for the application and ready to receive the amount of money we were targeting. So I hope this answers your question. I just founded startups eligible for Accelerator. Yes, actually, you have to define just, but it has to be a legal entity. Most startups are very early stage. I think your startup has to be, more than one person. The balance sheet is probably larger than your laptop, so you have to already have a little bit of momentum or body, right? So there must be a kind of a minimal leadership team around co-founders, and of course the technology should be
If
there.
I may add something
Yes,
on this question from the procedure side. So you also need to have a legal and financial validation of your company done by the Central Validation Service in the ATREA. So it's the Research Executive Agency. And you need to be able to show operational and financial capacity. So have a look at the website of REA on the legal validation of a company in the funding under portal.
Excellent.
I see
think-
that Asbjørn is already there.
Okay, and
if
the
there's
last question is answered, so
yes.
this is perfect. All right, I will mute again.
Perfect timing. Thanks, Asbjørn, for joining.
Thank you so much, Romina and Frank, for the invitation here, and good morning to everybody. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we do.
Fantastic, that's great. And I can see I've been already set as a presenter, so that's wonderful. Should I just run the presentation directly here from my
Yes,
laptop?
please.
Okay, then I will do just that. So give me a second. Let's see here. Be able to share this one here. And then I will just try to have the screen like this. And just a quick confirmation here that you can see my slides.
Yes, we do.
Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, so thank you again for the invitation to speak here. As I said, I'm Asbjørn Søndergaard, and I'm Chief Technology Officer of Audico Construction Robotics, and we are one of the EIC Accelerator beneficiaries that went into the call with a project called SmartStair. And I will be sharing some insights on how it has been to go through this process as a part of this conversation here, so you can get sort of maybe a hands-on feel on what that entails, and also how it relates to construction. So very briefly, we are a robotic company. Let's see here. Do you actually see a video rolling? Yeah. Just let me hear if you can see a moving picture. Then otherwise I will adjust my.
Working well.
You can see that. Okay, that's perfect. Great. Okay, so we are a company founded in 2012. So that's 10 years, close to 11 years of anniversary. And we are the first Danish robotic company that was publicly held as we entered NASDAQ in 2018. And we are situated in the city of Odense in Denmark, in the largest robotic cluster in Northern Europe that is hosted in the city here. And our work has been, since the founding, focused on robotic formwork, and we've had the pleasure of working with some of the leading design firms internationally, such as Hadid Architects and Bjarke Ingels Group and Studio Olafur Eliasson, to create some of the more iconic building projects in contemporary architecture. And our angle into this has essentially been to do the formwork for the concrete. And on this note, our specific innovation that we founded Audico on was the idea that through industrialization of robotic hot wire cutting of EPS formwork, it would be possible to significantly increase the production speed by 120 times X over a regular CNC milling process, because you can go from a method where you have 1,000 steps per square meter to just 1 step per square meter. And so we embarked on this journey here with robotic wire cutting. And then based on this technology, we have managed to complete around 400 projects worldwide in 7 countries, including some of those that I shared on the previous slide. One of the specific capacities here is that you generate a lot of flexibility with the wire cutting process. And we have also been exploring the use of this flexibility to create, among other things, topology optimized or structurally optimized concrete designs that you would otherwise stay away from. So here's an example of a prototype we did in 2018, and here another one in collaboration with Chicago-based Skidmore, Ings & Merrill, which is the design firm behind the Burj Khalifa, the currently tallest building in the world. And the finding from these exercises here was that formwork flexibility allows design innovation in concrete design, that you can apply these kind of optimization algorithms, and then come out with a more efficient design that can cut up to 70% of the concrete consumption. And that has a big impact on the embedded CO2 footprint of a building. Essentially, the flexibility that is hosted inside these formwork solutions is a way to help accelerate the transition of the construction or the concrete sector towards a more sustainable practice, basically by delivering the world's most flexible digital manufacturing solution for these large-scale problems. So that's the mission of Odeco. And I'm just showing you here a project that we just recently completed in Copenhagen, where one of the first examples of an topology optimized full-scale commercial structure has been set with this sort of formwork solution that you see on the table and the slabs here, to basically create these this tree-like branching structures. In this case here, the concrete was saved around 30% compared to a standard slab. So already there, a palpable reduction in the consumption, while at the same time generating these quite expressive, articulate structures that sort of show the design innovation that can be possible with this kind of technology. So that was sort of the preceding onset, and with this we embarked on a mission to take our technology to the next step through our participation in the EIC Accelerator in the form of this project Smart Stair. And so essentially we had identified a major hurdle in the approach that we started the company with, which is to achieve smooth surfaces on a fast and effective way on top of the EPS. We saw that solving this challenge here would actually be paramount to a very significant investment, and that's when we decided to go into this. And our target would be the sort of modest sounding application of straight staircase formworks, where essentially you need a digital customization process for making the formworks, and then a robotic process to follow along with it, because the staircases that are produced are an example of, you can say, a high volume example of complex formworks within the sort of everyday life architecture. So there's a volume associated with it, and then repeatability, despite everything being flexible. Now, staircases do have a very high demand for both the smoothness of the surface and for the robustness of it. And when it comes to EPS, then what you have is a porous material, which leaves a lot of open areas, even if you machine it nicely. For that, currently there is just two solutions. We were initially embarking on actually optimizing one of these. So the first solution you can do is to spray coat your EPS digitally or manually. But when you spray coat it with resin, what you get is that it will sort of carry over the porosity of the substrate below, and that means that you get these dents into the material. And that means that once you coated, your surface looks like this here, which is by far not good enough for concrete staircase, where you need it totally smooth. So what you get here is then you have to sand it and sort of manually process and do a lot of there to go more on it. So that was one target, and the other way is the sort of traditional way is to coat it with a thick layer of resin, as you can see here, epoxy resin, and then you mill that layer of epoxy resin down to so you get a full smooth surface. In this case here, the quality is very strong, also the durability, but it is actually very expensive, because both the material, the resin that goes in, is expensive and you need a lot of it, and also the milling time, where you sort of go at 1 millimeter or 0.5 millimeter steps, puts a lot of machining time to it. So it's not really effective. So you can say here's a very good example that through wire cutting you gain speed of the base geometry, but then you add the coating on top and you lose a lot of the speed that you initially gained, and thereby the cost difference is not great. So therefore, we actually managed to create an entirely new technology through this process here, where we had a breakthrough innovation or breakthrough concept that allows us to reduce the general production time of a staircase formwork from 3 to 4 working days into just a couple of hours of robotic production, and to cut the cost to at least 55% compared to a standard production method. And to most importantly, deliver a high quality formwork with the same smoothness and robustness that you would expect from a timber mold. And to realize this through a sort of a fully file to factory production journey, where you start with an online configuration by the user of the formwork, and then from there and from that order, you have a complete automation in the generation of drawing material and the production files that are required. So what we're looking at is basically, here's the output. I can't show the process itself today, but if you're interested, you will stay tuned, and then we will soon be able to release information about it. But here's the output, and what you can see is that we have managed to transform this porous surface of the EPS into durable and silk smooth form that creates this sort of almost marble-like texture when you're casting it. Here's an image from the casting with one of our test partners, and basically this glass smoothness here is, as the image shows, is almost irresistible to touch when you sort of feel it. So that was one of the highlights of the positive outcome of this coating technology. So with this sort of introduction or background here, I just wanted to have a couple of thoughts and then comments on the experiences here in working under the Accelerator program. I can say we are closing in on the finality of the project, so it's expected to complete in 30th of June. So it's still ongoing, but in the closing or finalizing stages. We see, first of all, that there is actually a significant investment is starting to come into the research, the academic research inside the construction industry, and virtually the whole construction industry is ripe for transformation using digital and robotic manufacturing technologies. But the construction industry is also a very conservative place to operate. Essentially there is a hesitation. There is not a sort of the kind of you can say optimism or acceleration that you see in other tech sectors, where it's sort of natural to put high gain, high risk investments into technology. So the idea of making technology disruption is not that settled. And that creates a difficult space to operate with as a newcomer, new company, because you need to convince these investors to go in and go there. And in our view, the Accelerator program is filling a crucial gap actually in this between the R&D funding that you can have in academia for the new sort of construction technologies, and then this valley of death that is easy to experience the moment you try to bring it from the laboratory into full-scale production. It is a really difficult and interesting pathway to thread on, and that that is a large you can say gap that is being addressed by this program. Additionally, we also see that in our view, the European construction sector is currently steaming ahead with this robotization and robotic research in construction, and there is a momentum, and our expectation is that it will translate into a large and growing ecosystem of technology providers that are just now emerging, and that it will see sort of a profound transformation with a large economic advantage coming out of that. And essentially investing in it by establishing such programs here is critical to enhance this advantage. So that is one of the really strongholds there. And then from the very specific, you can say, experience from Odico going through this year, we have two elements to highlight. The first one being that the participation in the EIC Accelerator basically enabled us to realize a very investment-intensive technology maturation process that we simply could not find investors for due to the risks involved in it in the current investment market. And through this, we have then been able to sort of pass this critical milestone of realizing it into production-ready technology and showing that in practice. And that is the point where most investors, be it institutional or industry investors, are okay or happy to sort of jump in and then push further, because then you can see that the large and main risks have been sort of eliminated through the preceding work. So that is a super exciting part of the journey. And then additionally, we actually also say that just the effort of actually creating the application that went into here has been very helpful in delivering sort of a very high quality action plan with a crystal clear KPIs for the market development and for the technology development, that you can say once a grant is then provided, then that execution plan can really go into action. And that is because there are these high quality requirements to enter and to succeed. But this work essentially is also, I would say, as a way to really qualify the whole execution process. So in that sense, that is also helpful. I would say, even in the case that it may not go through. I do have a lot of additional things to add to the table, but I was thinking that I might complete my slide sharing and then sort of turn the mic a little bit to the audience and to the hosts here for augmenting some of the experiences that I've shared here. Sorry, Frank, were you trying to say something, or was just muted, I think, for a second?
I can. Oh, I need to. Yes, can you?
Yes.
Hear me? Yes. Yeah, thanks very much for your presentation. It's really inspiring to see a pioneer, in this sector, going for this digitalization and robotization of the construction sector. I'm aware that we are well on the agenda, and there are more questions. If there are more questions, still we have 5 minutes to answer them. There's one question: what's more interesting for this challenge, energy efficient or generative design? I'm not 100% sure what is meant with this question. Yeah, I think what I explained in the presentation is there's this embedded carbon and there's the efficiency of buildings. I think we are looking or focusing on this triangle of computational design, digital fabrication, and materials, which is really focusing on the reduction of embedded carbon rather than focusing on the energy efficiency of buildings. I hope this answers this question. Are there any more questions? Also to Asbjørn, if you like.
Is the accelerator grant? There is another one also for research institutes or only companies. Is only for companies, and by companies we mean startups, SMEs, and small mid-cap companies. So
Yes, so the investors and the EIC need something to invest in, which is a legal entity, in this case a startup. All right, I think I don't see any questions. Henri, do you have any comments, suggestions? Otherwise, we close the session.
this one for Svelte and Odico maybe. So,
Okay,
Yeah.
one more question. Great question also.
Yes. What's your number one advice for a successful application? Ask Bjorn.
Ooh, I would say I probably cannot just give one because it is a compact knowledge requiring thing to go there. So I might come with 3 or 5 main elements here. But if I should really try to boil it down to number one is it requires the best of efforts to do it. So it really has to be considered that all the best thoughts and considerations are being put in deliberate planning for all aspects of the execution. That is the primary thing. And then secondary, of course, that would also be to gauge with yourself if the aspiring technology is something that can, with good certainty, be considered disruptive or transformative, or it's sort of incremental. So the impact factor, potential impact factor, is maybe a key assessment before enabling their I can come with more, but maybe I should let also Svelte chime in on this on this question.
Adela, maybe you have
Yeah,
last advice.
my advice is to, okay, after you make sure, as Bjorn said, that you definitely have the technology that is fit for being selected, to not treat this as a project and not treat this as an application you just want to win. This application and this project should be part of your growth strategy. It should be really, really close to how you see your company in the future. So you really must write the application thinking that, hey, this is my company, these are the next 3 to 5 years. This needs to be a very serious embedded plan, not just a project.
Yeah, if I may add to that, to the excellent comments of you, also in the spirit of running a startup, it's all in or not, right? This is competitive. You have to go all in because it takes quite a bit of time investment.
Yes.
Last 2 questions.
I think you can quickly take them.
Yep.
So for the first one, why do not you evaluate from carbon footprint? This is included in the second criterion, impact. So there is broader impact, and in the environmental part of it, you can answer to this question. The second one, are there hard deadlines or it's open all around? We have deadlines. I mean, the cutoff run all year long. So we, for the challenge-based one, we have as a deadline the 22nd of March, then the 7th of June, and then the 4th of October. So just keep in mind that this is for the full proposal. So before there is a short proposal step, and that takes that is open all year long, and that takes 4 weeks to complete this evaluation step. So, and I think we can close the Q&A here.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, then I just want to thank everybody for listening. I want to repeat the advice of Svelte and Odico, which is really very good summary of what you need to do to make a winning proposal. Put your best efforts in and do treat this really as part of your growth strategy as a company. And we hope that we will receive many good applications, and of course that you will be successful in your application. At 11 o'clock, we will have another session where we will go into the Pathfinder Challenge in this area of architecture, engineering, and construction. And that will be dedicated to early research in this area. So hope to see you again at 11 o'clock, and thank you very much for your attention to this session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.